Howdy, I'm Zamzow, and today I'm going to teach you how to make compost tea. If you don't already know, compost tea is one of the best ways you can fortify the life in your soil, improve the performance of your plants, and if you use the right inoculants, even help fight off bugs and disease. So let's get into it. What is compost tea? Imagine that you've got a bucket full of water, and inside that bucket is a bunch of good food and a bunch of good organisms. That's what compost tea is. So how do you make it? When you get down to brass tacks, compost tea can be made with an old sock, a 5-gallon bucket, a stick, and a good scoop of dark, rich earth. You can make compost tea a million different ways, but I'm going to teach you what my grandpa Jim taught me and how you make the best compost tea possible. So the first thing you need for a good compost tea is the organisms that you're going to get to grow and that you want in the soil. So I like worm castings for that purpose. You get a real dark, rich, good earth out of worm castings, and it's full of all the good microbes we want to get into this bucket. So I'm going to put 4 cups of worm castings into here. You know, making compost tea has a lot in common with making biscuits. You know how to make biscuits? You don't really need to follow the recipe. That's why I'm not measuring out exactly. If you want to follow an exact recipe, you can find one on our website. So, all right, I've got my worm castings in here. These are all the good microbes we're going to get to grow in this compost tea that we want in the soil and on our plants. Now, these microbes need some food if you want them to grow properly. And the best 3 things you can have for microbes: molasses, humic acid, rock phosphate. These will give us a wide range of beneficial organisms found in the worm castings that we can feed and proliferate in our compost tea. So I'm going to go ahead and put some Thrive in here. That's step 1. We're going to fill this up with 5 gallons of water. So I'm going to put about 1/4 gallon into here. You can do a little more, you can do a little bit less, again, like biscuits. Okay, what do we got in here? Yep. All right, we got our Thrive in there. Next, I'm gonna pick that up. I'll never litter. I hate littering. Next, we're gonna go on and add our tomato boom. This is a really good source of rock phosphate. Your rock phosphate feeds your fungi, and your fungi can help prevent powdery mildew and downy mildew, which are really common leaf molds. All right, so I'm gonna put 4 cups, roughly, into my bucket here. These organisms that we're gonna get going, the reason they can help prevent powdery or downy mildew is through competitive exclusion. We're gonna get so many good fungi living on the leaves that the bad fungi don't have any room. So research has shown that it is a natural way to help fight off those mildews. All right, so we got that. Now, so for secret sauce, because I want to make this brew my own, and I'll show you a really cool way to make it your own, I'm going to mix in a little bit of Zamzow's Bebopalooza. This is a fertilizer made 100% by leaf cutter bees. When they're done with their life cycle, doesn't hurt the bees any. Natural, totally organic. I'm going to put 1 cup into here, just for extra flavor for our microbes. So, I've added our inoculant, I've added the food for our microbes. We're gonna add a little bit of water. And then the most important thing you need to add for compost tea, whether you're making it with what I'm showing to you or with anything else at home, is that you must add air. Got my trusty stick. What we're gonna do is we're gonna fill this bucket up with water, and I'm gonna stir it really good so that I can get a vortex going and froth it. You need air in your compost tea if you want the good organisms that are aerobic, to grow with air, to grow in your compost tea. If you don't stir your compost tea enough, it will turn anaerobic. It will run out of air, and it smells like sewage. It stinks quite badly. It'll still work, but it's not going to work as well because your soil, if you're not watering too much, your soil has air in it. So the organisms we're trying to grow want to live with air too. So we're going to fill this up, we're going to stir. I'm going to set this bucket into a sunny spot, and every day at least 3 times a day, and you can't stir too much. You want to stir plenty. I'm going to stir my bucket really good. I'm going to really froth it around. I'm going to get a good vortex going. Sometimes I like to do a little witch's cackle when I'm doing this. Yes, with water, of course. So, 3 days have passed. Your compost tea will change from a dark brown color to kind of a lighter, more caramel, golden color. And the smell of your compost tea will change. And if you've done it right, you'll see some little bubbles on the surface of that tea in the morning. When you hit the 3rd day, it's time to use your compost tea. Compost tea is very forgiving if you've done it correctly. The nutrients are pre-digested. They're very, very absorbable for your plants. And the organisms that you're going to seed can be spread in a vast variety of ways. Research shows that you can dilute your compost tea up to 5 times the original volume and still get good effectiveness. So we can take a 5-gallon bucket of compost tea and make 20 gallons of natural fertilizer with it, which is amazing. But if you don't have that much ground, you don't need to either. Here's how I use my compost tea. I'll take about 2 cups and pour it around the base of each plant. If I'm working with more sensitive plants, I'll usually dilute it 50-50. So if I've got a gallon watering can, I'll put a half a gallon of compost tea and a half a gallon of water just to cut it down a little bit. Another really awesome way to use compost tea is as a foliar spray. And that's how you're going to prevent a powdery or a downy mildew totally naturally with compost tea, is you're going to spray it on the leaves. So to do that, you'll take 1 cup of compost tea, dilute that into a gallon of water or less if you're going into a smaller spray bottle, and you're going to need to strain your compost tea before you put it into that bottle. You know, we've got all this good solid material in there, great for feeding microorganisms, and you can even use that solid sludge material around your plants, but bad for sprayers. It'll clog it right up. So you want to screen it out. I like to use cheesecloth. You could use a paint strainer, a sock, a stocking, however you want to. But strain that out, put it into your spray bottle. Early in the morning, and this is very important, spray that onto the leaves of your plants. Not only can they absorb the nutrients to the leaves, but you'll cover the leaves with beneficial microbes that will help fight off infections and pathogens. So that's compost tea in a nutshell. Thanks for watching.